I'm kind of like in the middle person. I can see things from a Hong Kong person point of view because of the different political system. Last year I was in the Beijing Queer Film Festival, and right away I fly to San Francisco, Frameline Gay Lesbian Film Festival. So two festivals actually give me a very extreme feelings about how the country or how the gay movement is happening in two different places. The Queer Film Festival in Beijing is still running, is still offering a lot of documentary program, and also a lot of and like the festival location have to base from the city and moving from like a little bit on the countryside, just to avoid too many people to gather together to avoid getting too many attention from the government. This is something I feel it is sad, and it is something that the festival is afraid of, like touching the political side of the gay and lesbian issues that offended the government. At the same time, when I was in San Francisco, we have 2 days of parade. Everybody is like celebrating, like glorifying the whole situation and the diversity of sexuality in the city. And then what is most impressive is the audience award of the festival last year. Maybe everybody have saw the films. It's Patrick 1.5. It's a Swedish film. Let's talk about two gay men wanted to adopt a son. So they already formed a family and they wanted a son. I keep thinking on my way back to Hong Kong is how long it's gonna take for China to recognize this humor inside these films, at the same time to know how the gay family and like the needs of the children inside a family. So if in America, say starting from Harvey Milk, it takes 30 years for the whole population to understand the whole situation of the gay movement, that it might comparatively need certain time in China to develop this awareness on the family and the populations.
Actually, I think what is happening in China could also be a way maybe to rethink the way we talk about sexuality and we experience sexuality, and the whole, like the queer cinema of Tsui, the queer cinema of Simon Liang, and the queer cinema of you could also be a way to rethink desire. And I will feel rather awkward basically that the idea that the moment you come out, this is a moment of liberation and this is good, and then you have affirmed your identity. And this is the only possible way of being gay. I hope there could be more ways, and actually to me, Asia, as one region, could possibly search for different ways that are not going back to a certain sense of traditional Chinese, which I think is dangerous, but neither going to this kind of Western model like you have to come out and then you have to be full-time homosexual all of a sudden.
Who in China will take the lead? Individual brave people who have their own coming out or their own liberation, I should not use the word coming out, individual liberation within a Chinese cultural context, or do you depend on a government or the authorities to change the laws and to say it's okay?
There are two trends in China. Like one trend thinks it's just like in America, you have to fight for it. It's about individual. It's individual struggle. You have to fight for it. But on the other hand, also there are people thinking the rights are provided, are offered by the government. So it's a matter of the tension between these two kind of struggles, individual versus collective, the state. But so the majority, in the end, the state wants, and the majority of people, they are waiting for the state to give them the right instead of fighting for them.
We heard there are millions of Chinese who are probably lesbian or gay, so there must be 100 and more different stories how people are arranging their lives and are coming out. My question is, can we expect in the near future more films of those individual stories, maybe also from the countryside and not just from the big cities? Is there a climate in China to make those films?
The majority of people who are aware of the concept of homosexuality or aware of themselves being gay are actually working in the city, even when they are coming from the countryside. And on the other hand, it's very difficult to get in touch with those people. I have a friend who tried to shoot a film with about homosexuality in the countryside, but when he tried to interview them, the other person in the countryside actually responded by saying, "What is homosexuality? I don't know." For people maybe living in the countryside, it's hard to get in touch with the globalization and the new concept coming from the West. So it's hard to make movies in that way.
And something more to share is, when you talk about the city, I realize actually in China that actually there's a lot of teenage girl that become a fan of gay movie, which is not totally happening in the Western world. Like they are around 16 to 21 or something. So they are so obsessed with love between two boys. So they actually have a term called BL comics, or comics is coming from Hong Kong, from Japan. But then this BL means boy love. That boy is a boy love story or boy love comic that, actually gay movie in China have a lot of teenage girls audience.
Because countries such as Vietnam, Japan, Korea, Thailand, and Taiwan actually produce many more gay movies, and also at a much higher, or I wouldn't say higher level, but possibly with many more professional means. So they also target a much bigger audience, and they seem to be doing really well in the festival circuit worldwide. How is that reflected on in China itself, in mainland China?
The regulation, the law environment in China is quite different in terms of filmmaking. There are 13 prohibitions in China in terms of movie making. One of them is you are not allowed to make a gay-related film. So that's why you couldn't see you couldn't see gay films in the mainstream cinemas or film festivals. Even the Hollywood movie like Brokeback Mountain, when they tried to enter Chinese market, it was impossible. But in terms of the neighboring countries, I think Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia have the similar environment as in China.
Actually, first of all, I have one for Cui. Cui is about, because there's a filmmaker in China making gay films. I want to know how is the situation like? Do you have some special, how do you say, like limit or pressure, or have you ever received some like support from people?
Movie in July. But it's quite different from before because China is becoming more and more commercialized. Before I could make a film from 10,000 RMB or just a couple of hundred RMB, I could make a film, but nowadays it's impossible. So I have to do it through the international support.
I think you're quite young and you already made like the Sun is Winchan, which is quite a good movie. And I think there's very few films talking about Western Eastern gay scene. I think there was only once An Li's The Banquet, Wedding Banquet. Yes. So I just want to know if I think you must have some like European experience or something. So for that movie, and I want to know how, if you can share some experience, how you came through that route to, from the life and to a film.
I think to call yourself a filmmaker or to make gay films, you certainly bear a lot of social responsibility. So the reason that I have a little bit of political background because I was involved in the gay movement in Hong Kong quite a bit in the 90s. So making a gay films become like is also part of my outcoming process as well. I want to tell people how normal or how ordinary gay people is. My films is mostly the aims of my film is mostly to blur the border between homosexual and gay. So it's like it could be an ordinary love story if it is acted by a woman and a man. It's a very ordinary love story.